Have you ever had that awful feeling of being left out socially or with friends? That's what I'm going to talk about this week, because feeling left out is a common trigger that for many people doesn't go away over time. And that's why I'm talking about it, because feeling left out can trigger feeling not enough and even feelings of shame, depending on how severe the feeling is. And I'm going to show you ways that I actually dealt with it last week, because there are steps you can do to lessen that pain and to start healing. But the first thing I'm going to say is that some wounds don't fully heal and you may still have scars. And I think feeling left out often goes back to childhood. So if you're like me and you notice that there are some things that don't entirely go away in your recovery, that's okay. That's actually normal. If you're new here, my name's Michelle Ferris. I'm a psychotherapist and I love helping people create relationships that work. I've been going to a conference for a couple of years now, and last year we met a really lovely couple that we got together with, and we tried to get together with them again this year. So we set plans, everything was set, and they ended up canceling, and I got really hurt because they canceled, but they didn't reschedule. And this was something we had scheduled a while ago, and they said, no, I'm sorry, we have plans with some other couple. And immediately I took it personally. And immediately I noticed my self-talk was, what's wrong with me? How come they don't like me? Okay, and if you can identify with that, this video is gonna help, because I wanna walk you through what helped me heal. To be frank, some things in recovery still hurt. And for me, being left out often happens when I'm with a group of women or when I'm with a group of colleagues. Those are the two areas where I tend to feel a lot more vulnerable. So in this situation, it popped up. And what I did was I had to acknowledge the hurt first. And instead of telling myself I'm being too sensitive, because honestly, it wasn't really, when you look at the story, it wasn't a huge infraction, right? They didn't do anything purposeful. They just canceled plans. But when you're triggered and it's a sensitive spot for you, you're gonna have a bigger reaction, and that's what happened to me. So what I did was I had to acknowledge that, you know what, I'm hurt. And even if it's small, even if it may seem silly to some people, I don't care. I'm gonna honor the feeling. The second thing I did immediately was get support. I always make a call to a trusted friend. I also talk to my husband and just let them know, hey, I just need to be heard. And they did. Now, sometimes when we get support, you may need validation that your perspective is correct. That's okay. I didn't need that anymore, but I definitely needed somebody to be empathetic and to hear me. Okay, that's a really important part of healing, is to be heard and have a witness to our experience. Because I think when we isolate and we don't do that, it gets worse and those feelings tend to fester. Now, the next thing I did was I had to find the negative assumption I was attaching to her behavior. And what I did is I immediately, when she said she was canceling, I found myself saying, ooh, what's wrong with me? How come she doesn't like me? How come she wanted to go with another couple and not us? Okay, I was assigning meaning that I wasn't enough in that situation, or possibly something was wrong with me, that why didn't she still want to keep the plans with us? And I had to challenge those assumptions. So that's the next step, is I had to say, well, wait a minute, is that even true? And turns out I know in my heart it isn't. She's just too busy and she had to cancel plans. It has nothing to do with me. But in the moment of feeling left out, what we do is we assign meaning to that other person's behavior, and we assume their intent is to either that we're not enough, or in some cases, we may even assume that they're intentionally doing this to hurt us. And I don't believe most people want to intentionally hurt us. But in this situation, she probably was just busy and double booked. But for me, I had to remind myself that, oh yeah, this has nothing to do with me. This has to do with whatever she had going on. And if I can change that negative assumption and challenge it, then I can start to heal, because that's how you stop taking things personally. Because if I don't do that, I will ruminate in the hurt. And maybe like you, if you have a similar story, if you keep regurgitating those negative thoughts about why we think the other person hurt us, it tends to make our feelings bigger and it tends to create a lot more pain. But how you stop the pain is you literally challenge that negative thought because it's most likely untrue. So when we're feeling left out, we might make assumptions like we're not liked or we're purposely being excluded from the group. And I know in my case, that's just not true. But when I go to the conference next week, I'm going to be a little tender-hearted because going into large groups of my colleagues where everybody knows everybody and I don't know that many people very well, I have to remind myself and use my positive self-talk to say, you know what, that's okay. That doesn't mean anything negative about me. Because part of when you're in recovery from codependency or addiction or bad behavior is you have to change your self-talk. And for me, it was really important to catch those assumptions I was making about the other person's intent and why they wanted to cancel. The next thing I had to do is I had to come up with a new truth. Like, this wasn't about me. I am a good person. I am liked. I am lovable. I do have friends. And all of those things are true. But what's also true is that not everybody has to like me. That's okay. That can't be a prerequisite for me being happy or me living life, because otherwise I'm going to be miserable. Because let's face it, not everybody gels. Sometimes people are going to say no thank you because they don't connect with us. And that doesn't mean anything negative about you. But I want you to hold it in that way that, you know what, somebody else saying no or excluding you from an event, there may be a lot of different reasons why they do that have nothing to do with you. And that's the new truth, is that this has nothing to do with you. And if you do think it has something to do with you, you can ask. You can say, hey, I noticed you didn't invite me to the party. I was just wondering if it was something I did. Because you can absolutely check it out. Now, in this case, for me, I knew I didn't have to do that because I know they were just busy. And it really wasn't about me, but that child part of me got really hurt. And that's where, when you do this work long enough, you notice your scars. There are going to be certain situations that come up that trigger you that don't entirely go away. And feeling left out can be one of them. I know it is for me. So when it comes up, the good news is, like 30 years ago, I would plummet into shame and I would have a huge reaction because I really thought it was about me not being enough. Fast forward to today, I was hurt, but I didn't go so far as to feeling bad about myself for very long. I only stayed in it for a couple of hours and then I could see that, you know what, this really isn't about me. And that's the growth. But I can't expect to have that issue completely wrapped up and it's never going to trigger me again, because that may be unrealistic given your history or my history, because certain things tend to leave scars. And that's what I want to tell you, is that that's okay. That doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. That doesn't mean you have to do something else in your recovery. It just means that it's a scar. And we have to respect some of our battle scars from childhood because it's actually helped us be the person we are today. So I don't want you to see those scars as bad or as flaws, but as part of you. And that's how you can start to rebuild that self-love. So the process of recovery is to learn how not to take things personally. And when things come up, if you need to check it out and you're feeling left out, check it out. If you don't need to check it out because maybe you don't know these people really well or you don't feel safe enough, that's when you utilize your support system. You really challenge that negative belief about that other person's intention, because I guarantee it's almost always wrong. And that's the power you have to heal feeling left out, is to find that negative assumption that you're assigning to their behavior and what they did that caused you to feel left out, and change it. And find the value in yourself, because that's what I had to do. I had to say to myself, I'm okay. This is not about me. Nothing's wrong here. But I also had to have compassion that that little girl of mine, the inner child inside of me, my 4 or 5-year-old, still gets tapped on occasion and still gets hurt. And that's okay. All I can do is let her be hurt, give her support, love her, and accept that this is a scar that is still going to be there, and that's okay. What I also notice in feeling left out is that it really ties to low self-esteem. So I'm going to link my free ebook on confidence, because oftentimes when we're feeling left out, it really ties to not feeling good about ourselves, and that guide can help you. So if you like this video, I would love it if you join my community. Thanks so much.